Good morning. My name is Tieleman and this is Sam de Muijnck. We're with Rethinking Economics NL, the student movement for pluralism in economics in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, we couldn't come to the conference today to present live, so we decided to do our presentation by video.
The debate about what economics students learn and should learn is becoming quite lively in the Netherlands, but the debate is mostly based on anecdotal evidence and personal impressions. So we decided to do systematic research into what is actually taught in order to improve the level of the discussion.
So, here's our presentation, a quantitative analysis of Bachelor curricula in the Netherlands. We both came to study economics in the hopes of understanding the economy, as most students do. So this was our core question: what do we study when we study economics? We measured this through 4 sub-questions. What research methods are taught? What theoretical approaches are taught? To how much engagement with the actual economy is there? And to what degree are students taught to be critical, open-minded and reflective academic thinkers?
There are 9 Dutch universities which offer a bachelor program in economics. In this research we mapped out the content of all bachelor courses offered by these economic faculties. For the data we used course outlines, which all universities put on their website. We covered 62 indicators for every course. These indicators are things like what research methods are taught, so for example regression analysis, or what theories are taught, so for example is there any post-Keynesian theory in this course.
We coded all courses between just 2 people to ensure continuity of coding. And to make sure that each course assessment was accurate, we asked students from that particular university to double check our results. Our goal was to create an overview of what students learn in a typical bachelor, 180 ECTS, that's European course credits. Of course, there's more than 180 ECTS if you add up all possible elective courses students could take. So we weighted the electives in the data according to the amount of possible alternatives students had in that particular time slot. Most questions, like does this course teach political science theory, are of course not yes or no questions, but they fall on a gradient. So for each theoretical approach, for each method, we noted whether a course does not treat it at all, briefly treats it, extensively treats it, or is completely devoted to it. We used these weights to add up the content of all courses, to compile an overview of what is taught in an entire average bachelor program.
This is the content of an average Dutch bachelor program in economics. Almost half of the time is spent on theory courses in economics. 19% of the time is spent on methods, and 13% is spent on business theory, since many bachelor programs spend their first year together with business and economics. This is reasonable. And another 12% is more open with a minor or exchange program or such things.
So, what research methods are taught? The first thing that jumps out is that it's almost entirely about numbers. More than half the time is spent on quantitative analytical methods like regression analysis. Another 43% of time is spent on learning pure mathematics. And just 2% of teaching time is spent on qualitative research methods, interview techniques, focus groups, ethnographic research, archival research, and so on and so forth.
It could be argued that the main function of an academic education is to teach people to think, to see the world in new ways. So our second sub-question focuses on this. What disciplines are taught to us, the future experts on the economy, and within the economic discipline, what approaches are dominant? First, the disciplines. Of course economics is dominant, but business studies also get serious attention. Besides this, the programs contain small slices of political science, sociology and psychology. Other disciplines like law, anthropology and culture studies are completely left out, even though these disciplines have much to say about the way the economy works.
And then, what approaches are taught within the economic discipline? The economy has many different aspects, and there is no single set of classes which can bring them all into focus. So we checked what theoretical approaches are taught what sets of analytical glasses do students acquire? We quickly found that these programs are almost entirely dominated by neoclassical economics. Not only does it get the lion's share of teaching time, there is also no single other approach which is effectively set to contrast it. No other approach receives more than 4% of teaching time. This means it's very hard for students to pick up the fact that there's more than one way to think about the economy. Thinking like an economist comes to mean almost entirely thinking like a neoclassical economist. Third, we asked, how thick are the walls of the ivory tower? Do students get to peek outside now and then at the actual economy, or is it all theory? To answer this question, we checked, does the course guides mention only theory, or does it also mention studying a specific sector of the economy? Maybe the health sector, the sports sector. Does it mention studying economic history, maybe the Great Depression, or the economic structure of past societies? Does it mention economic problems like poverty, migration, climate change, inequality? As it turns out, 75% of our courses mentioned none of these things. 12% mentioned at least one of them at least once. Another 12% treated a sector or an economic problem extensively, and just 2% of our courses were really fully focused on a real world issue.
Finally, we asked, what tools for critical thinking are taught? Do students get to learn ethics or philosophy of science, and do they learn to critically reflect on economic methodology? Besides this, we also looked at teaching materials, and do they focus upon reproduction or on original thought? Besides this, we also focused upon testing methods, and is this multiple choice, or do they actually learn to analyze and to structure an argument? And finally, we also looked at whether students not only learn to think, but also learn to communicate ideas. For example, to debate, to explain, to come out of the ivory tower and to engage with the broader public. Here's what we've learned. About half of the programs have an obligatory course on ethics, philosophy of science and economic methodology. The testing materials are quite a mixed bag with not too much multiple choice in fact. The teaching materials are mainly textbooks. This is unique among social sciences, at least in the Netherlands, and we think it's dangerous. Textbooks encourage mindless reproduction, and usually the debates are filtered out of them. Finally, communication skills. Students sometimes have to present in front of the class, but that's it. Most of the course include none of this.
So, let's come back to our core question. What do we learn when we study economics? We feel that there are broadly these two views. A. Learning to think like an economist, to see the world through a certain lens, or B. Understanding the economy. Our research shows that for the Dutch economics programs, the answer is A. Students learn to think like an economist.
Yes. And this economic approach is pretty specific. It is based on methodological individualism, it uses highly mathematical and quantitative research methods, and it's based on a philosophy of utilitarianism and focuses almost exclusively on markets to the exclusion of any other economic mechanism. So where can students go who actually want to understand the economy without dogma in their thinking, using different methods and approaches?
Well, that question is far too broad to engage with in such a brief presentation. But we really feel that if this is what economics programs are going to be like for the foreseeable future, there should be an alternative. A bachelor program called Economy Studies, something like that, where students come to learn not to think like an economist, but to understand our economic system. Without dogma, using a variety of approaches, including the neoclassical, but as only one approach among many to understand one aspect among many. For that, we really look forward to the outcome of this conference as well, and we hope to share some of your ideas here in the Netherlands.
On a practical note, on our website www.rethinkingeconomics.nl we have more information for anyone who is interested in mapping out the content of economics programs. There are several ways to do this, so we have written a how-to guide which explains what the pros and cons are of the various approaches. Handy for students, but also for academics. We have also put up this video and our PowerPoint presentation up there, so feel free to use them in any way you see fit.
So, thanks for your attention and enjoy the rest of the conference.